Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad along here with Doug.
Hi.
So this is continuing up on Doug's PAX Adventures.
Yes.
So one of the booths that you spent a lot of time with that you were talking about was Annapurna, which is a
Yes.
company that I was completely and wholly unaware of until about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, I literally I didn't know what Annapurna was before going into PAX. I had heard that Edith Finch was no longer being published by Sony. I was like, ooh,
Yep.
okay. It was actually at the Sony booth though, so not everybody needs to freak out too bad. So I was talking to that guy there, and he's like, oh yeah, you can go check out the PC version of it over at it's beneath the big A from Annapurna Publishing or something. I was like, okay, sure. And like I sort of forgot about it. I was like, I already saw Edith Finch. Let's go wander around. So I wandered by this booth, and they had a line of computers. Uh, well, first of all, they had a model of the Edith Finch house like in the middle of their thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Like a scale model. It was pretty big. I'd say it was about like maybe 6 feet tall. So it was like a
I'm always,
legit.
I'm
Yeah,
always curious where those things go. Like after PAX and after the games come out, where's that thing at?
dude. They. Side note, like they were showing a survival horror game, not at a different booth. That was literally like a house. Like I was like, I don't know what they do with that house. Like,
Where's that shit go? Like,
yeah.
like I have a basement full of like movie posters and stuff, but it's like I don't have like giant house displays.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was really cool though, and like the Edith Finch one actually was like it was so nice. Like the PC version of that game looks gorgeous. Um, but anyway, they were showing four games, like one of which I had heard of, which is Edith Finch. One that I had kind of heard of and seen a trailer 3 years ago, which is Donut Country, and the other two I just never heard of and never seen before that. And no joke, that was the best overall quality of games and booth I had played at PAX, and I just sort of wandered into it. Um,
So what made these games so great? Like Edith Finch, I think it's out there because Sony gave a kind of a pretty decent sized push to that
yeah,
when it was announced because it's a giant sparrow if I remember correctly, right?
yeah, the guys who did Unfinished Swan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. So that got a kind of a big push, but these other ones I can tell you that I've never heard of before, at all.
yeah, no, that's okay. Like Donut Country was the only one I had sort of heard of, and that one, like literally, last trailer was 2 years ago, and it was
Yeah.
like an indie trailer that showed a little bit of gameplay that didn't make any sense unless you actually understood how the game played. So I'll kind of go from like the game I really liked to like just like the. I'll start with the games I liked, and then the ones I loved by the end. Um, so I didn't get a chance to play Gorogoa. I saw a lot of people playing that one though, and it was this very weird like picture in picture in picture in picture game where like you're sort of like clicking through, um, kind of like a I don't know like a it's really hard to describe. That's about as much as I can describe. It's kind of like a like recursive photos like as you're like going through and like deeper and deeper and deeper in these photos and they're examining something, but there's no words on screen. Like I had no idea what these guys were playing, but people kept talking about how awesome it was. I was a bit miffed. I actually didn't get a chance to sit down and play it. Um, so I won't be able to talk about that one much. Edith Finch though, I got to talk with the lead the I think he just said just lead developer. Like he's the guy like who is making Edith Finch. Like he's the director of Edith Finch. Um, and what Edith Finch is, I the concept is is just so neat, and like I didn't really understand it until he actually like sat down and explained like this is what this game is. I thought I knew what it was, but I was totally wrong. So you are a character that's visiting a house that's very similar to a series of unfortunate events, kind of like this very
Oh yeah,
large,
yeah, yep,
impossible manor.
yeah.
Um, but how it works, what makes this manor unique? So even been in this manor in like 15 years, is that these generations of families have lived in the house. So like the first generation lived on the first floor, the second generation lived on the second floor, the third generation lived on the third, fourth, whatever. So it's this like large
Yep.
spiraling tower of a house. Um, and what happened? This family has a long history of death, at unfortunate circumstances. So what happened is, as a family member died, they would just seal off the room. So so like there's a room that's perfectly like 1940s. There's like of a little like the demo is of a little girl who had died in 1940.
Yeah.
So you go in. So you're basically like exploring this house that has all these sealed off rooms. You can like peek into them before you actually play them. So like there's like a 60s room, a 40s one, or whatever. And what you do is like when you actually do get into that room, you play out the last moments of that person's life.
That's kind of cool.
So and it's very very surreal. It seems like it's one of those like unreliable narrators sort of thing. the demo they had there. This is gonna be, I guess, probably light spoilers for the opening. You play as a kid who's like really hungry on. So you play as a kid who's really hungry on Christmas Eve, and they're going around the house just like eating things. And then I was standing next to the person talking to the developer, and the person next to me was playing the demo. And then your character eats holly berries, like like how Christmas has like holly berries. And the person took off.
Wait, what the hell's a holly berry?
Okay, so in Christmas time, you have like those. There's like leaves you put around the house. They're like leaves, and you have like these red berries.
Oh, those red plastic things.
Yeah, well, in the 1940s, they were real things.
Oh, they're plastic now.
Yeah,
You shouldn't eat plastic.
No, don't eat plastic. But it's really funny because the character eats a holly berry, and the person who's playing the game, like, she takes off her headphones, like, kind of mad. She looks at the guy. She's like, holly berries are poisonous, right? And he's like, I do.
Shit.
Yeah. And like what you do is like you play as, so how that demo worked is like she was hungry. So you play as all these different animals that are hungry. Like you're not sure if she's like hallucinating or dreaming after she's a holly berry.
Wait, so you play as an animal?
Yeah. So what happens? You eat the holly berries and you look out the window, and then it says, "Suddenly I was a cat," and then you walk out the window.
Wait, so you were a person, you eat the thing that's going to kill you, now you're a cat.
Yeah. So you travel back in time, you're now a little girl, you eat a holly berry, and then you're a cat.
Now you're a cat. It's funny just because I've seen the trailers for this game, and like the tone that this game looks like and the way you're describing it are just two so different things in my mind. It's
very it's like a series of unfortunate events. It's like that sort of like dark, macabre, whimsical surrealism sort of thing.
Yeah, no, completely.
But it's like, so what it is, like, you're a cat and you're chasing a bird, and all of a sudden she goes, "Suddenly I was an owl," like just out of nowhere, and then like you're an owl flying around trying to kill rabbits, and then it's like, "Suddenly I was a shark," and then like you're a shark that's like just forms in the middle of midair, and then you like fall down a hill into a river, and then you have to go eat a seal. It's really cool, and it's like it actually feels like, or it looks like, how you dream. Like if you explain your dreams, like, I was in school in my underwear, and then I was at my house, and as I was 12 years
like
old.
that complete disconnected narrative, essentially. Like, then this happened, then I was this, then the world exploded.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so you don't know what's happening, and the whole thing is like they're all around hunger, so you're like an animal hunting animals.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and there's some very cool stuff that the shark is not the weirdest thing that you turn into. But it was really cool to sitting there like just talking with the guy, because he just like was very, very passionate about the game. One of the cool things he talked about is like the gameplay mechanics change for every person that you play as. He's like, our rule was you had to just use the 2 sticks and 1 action button. Mm-hmm. But he's like, we play with that a ton, so I didn't get to see that, like what they were.
So keep the controls simple, but do a lot of weird stuff with that simple control scheme.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love. I think we've talked like a bit before about like simple control. Like we both are kind of big fans of simple control schemes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So he's like, but I can't. I mean, I probably could have asked like, hey, what do you do? But I just didn't want to know because I wanted to play the game.
Yeah.
It just looked gorgeous. It just looked like, I mean, it's not walking. I mean, it's a walking simulator sort of thing. It's like, it's one of those beautiful art games. And if you're not into that, you're not into it. And if you think, you're just not gonna have a good time with it. But like seriously, just the tone of it was so great. It was so cool.
So you said it's a darker tone. This is again like, because it's all about these people dying, so it doesn't get into like the horror element or anything like that, like really gruesome deaths or anything like that. It's just more of the like, they died and this is kind of just experiencing their last moments type of thing. Or
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the first person you play as is like a little girl poisoning herself to death on accident. So,
but it's not. But I guess what I'm saying is it's not like this like morbid, like overly focused on that. Because I mean, like in my mind, I'm just picturing like, I'm dead now, I'm a cat. You know what I mean? Like, which is moving on from that. It's not like dwelling on that moment or like that we're really pushing for this emotional reaction right now. We're gonna over dramatize this and make this as crazy emotional as we possibly can.
No, it's. I mean, I'm sure that stuff's gonna be in there. But what I saw, it's kind of like, I don't know. Have you ever seen like macabre storytelling? It's like, this is Fred. Fred died, and this is Fred's story. It's kind of like that. It's just like,
I guess I'm like, is this one of those games where it's like, we want you to cry right now?
Oh no, it didn't feel like that at all. It was very somber because you knew going into it your character is going to die. But it's very beautiful. It's very somber, but it's not. It's whimsical. It's a very neat tone that's hard to nail down unless like you know what it is, unless you've played it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that was the least interesting game I played at this booth. Not the least. I mean, like the least. It was still excellent. Like I'm still excited for that game. But the other two games I played, this one was just. I think IGN actually talked about it. I just happened to walk up to the booth just as IGN had finished. Demoing it, and this one is called The Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti, which this game is okay. What is this game? If you saw this game, you would be like, okay, this is kind of a hard game to describe. You are.
I haven't seen this game, so I don't know if it's a hard game to describe.
Okay, so I guess the best way to describe it, it's very similar to, you know, that scene in Journey that's really pretty, where you're going through at dusk and you see like the sand kind of looks like an ocean almost, and it's like a you side scroll at some point. It's that the game. But it's kind of like it's that scene, so you're sort of like going through and like doing these kind of, it's not hard platforming, it's just kind of like, you know, it's a platformer that you're kind of like being moved from left to right.
Like Absu, where it's like you're not really doing anything complicated. You're just we need something to get you to move from place to place.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just to frame it. So what the game is that you play an astronaut musician who wants to be a rock star. People at home want him to be a folk musician, but he wants to play like the Ballad of the Gods.
Turn in that acoustic guitar for that electric guitar.
Yeah, so how you jump in this game, so what you do, you press X to jump, you press X twice to double jump. If you press X, and once you do your triple jump, if you keep tapping X, you shred. Like the only button is to jump and shred. So what happens is like you jump in the air, you double jump, and all of a sudden like this guitar made of light appears in front of you, and like you do kind of like a slower third jump as you fall down. But it's the music. They actually had like an amp in front of the station, in front of the station playing the music. But it's like this really it's not like brutal legend like death metal or heavy metal stuff like that. It's just like these really, really gorgeous guitar. I don't know, guitar solos and and stuff like that.
I like trying to listen to you describe music. That's so far away from what you care about.
I don't. See, I didn't care about the music, but I was like still way into this game. To me, I always think like music is a secondary thing that can like really get me into it, but I can't describe it at all. It's like you describing art in games, but you're really good at describing gameplay mechanics. But yeah, so the world that you're in, it's like you're on some like this beautiful planet that has these creatures that I can only describe as like a cross of like sci-fi and like eldritch Cthulhu horror.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like there's this weird dialogue trees as well that you have with these monsters. Like they're asking you like, what do you think about like when you play music? And like you have like three options, and one is like, I go into the deep chasm of my mind to pull forth the essence of art. Or
that's your inner folk musician coming out.
but it's like, and you're just talking to these crazy like 3 or 4 story tall creatures that look really horrifying. And to actually initiate a conversation with them, you play sort of a Simon Says game that's very similar to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You're like the boom, boom, boom. So like,
but with like guitars, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but you what happens is your guitar not only transforms like your guitar, it transforms this giant face that kind of like talks as you could like do guitar solos. Okay. So like it's going like boom, 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 like the creature's eyes are lighting up, and then you play like a guitar solo that's kind of similar to that.
That's kind of cool. And is it like a rhythm game mechanic, or is it just like, again, because this is in my mind, I'm picturing much more of this like a simple platformer art game. Is there like a rhythm game mechanic here, or is it just like
it had dialogue tree options, and then it had that simple kind of platforming stuff like I was saying, and then it also had the sort of Simon Says kind of amplitude or any other sort of like rhythm game.
Yeah, where you're like on the track and you got to get that whole thing.
Yeah, it was very Simon Says. I that's what I saw as far. It's like this is clearly going somewhere. But then when you actually like start getting into the movement of the game, your guitar turns into a snowboard, and as you're snowboarding down this alien planet, the aliens will like there's like these aliens in the background that like are kind of like slumbering, and they'll wake up as you go past them, but they wake up and they like light up like Christmas trees.
What the heck? This sounds really cool.
It is amazing. Like the person I was with was actually the one playing it. she just wanted, because it was just kind of like she was the one who actually stopped like a booth. She's like, we need to play this. I was like, oh, okay, sure. I didn't know what it was or anything like that. But yeah, like as you're passing through, so like everything is going to the beat of the music. So like you pass like this giant like slumbering creature, and you pass by, it goes twang, and like it lights up like a Christmas tree as you go by. And like sometimes like faces will come out of the ground, and it's all like this very like neon sort of light look as well. But like as you're going forward, like the music's picking up. There's more lights, there's more jumping, there's more flips, and there's all this like shredding guitars and stuff like that. I know this game sounds crazy to explain, but it was like legit jaw-dropping. Awesome. It was awesome. Like when we came up, there was about 10 people around the booth. As we were playing it, like a crowd started forming. Like games have crowds, not small indie games make a lot of people just like stop dead in their tracks and go like, what is that?
Yeah, that sounds really cool. When does this come out?
It felt early. I think we asked, you know what it was? I learned at PAX, don't ask people when their games are coming out. I learned that pretty quickly. Just don't. It's not nice.
When it's done.
Yeah, kind of. It was like, it felt like of Edith Finch, like that felt like that was coming out like super soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's been in development for a long time, because I feel like Sony announced that like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and this one felt like a little bit like it's coming out in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And okay, so I've already described those two games. And those
I was going to say, like, that sounds awesome enough, but I'm very curious to know, because this other one, which is it Donut County or Donut Country?
Donut County.
Donut County.
Yeah.
So this one is, you texted me like 4 times yesterday while you were wandering around PAX about this stupid game, and I have no clue what it is. So I'm very curious to hear you tell me about this.
Cause this game was like actually kind of what like I think we had come up because we knew because we wanted to see the Edith Finch like model, because we were at the PlayStation booth and the guy told us to go see the Edith Finch model. So we saw the model and we're like, okay, this booth's kind of neat. But we kind of like walked around because we had seen Edith Finch at the PlayStation booth. And we walked around the outside of the booth, and they just had a line of computers. There was nobody, like there was people playing them, but like there's like maybe one person standing behind them, and there's no developer around. I was like, okay, what is this game? It's called Donut County. I vaguely I vaguely recollected seeing like a trailer for it a really long time ago. This was definitely like I think I'm a sucker for surprises for games. I have like absolutely no idea going into them what they're going to be. So it was me and the people and the 2 other people. We went with the actually all grabbed a computer and all played at the same time. It's not a multiplayer game. We're just all playing the demo at the same time. So what the game starts with is that you are texting your boss, who's an alligator.
I just sometimes like when I hear stuff about these indie games, I'm just like, what purpose does the alligator serve? Like, why?
It's kind of like
it's awesome, and like I'm not trying to be like that, because there's some games with like weird stuff. Like I've been playing Danganronpa, and it's like it's a bear. Like why is it a bear? Why not? Like it's just sometimes those things just get me. It's like your boss, the alligator, said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's weird. Okay, so the setup is like your character is you're a black woman, and like I think you're 20s or something like that. It's got a really cool art style. It's very very like low poly, but really gorgeous looking. It like actually kind of stopped me in my tracks. I was like, this game just looks neat. It looks like a Katamari Damacy style, like if it actually had a little bit more like art behind. The game's still pretty arty. It's not as blocky. It's a very appealing game that's very low poly. Yeah. I just like. And she's sitting on her couch like texting your boss, and you can text your boss like pictures of chickens or actual replies. So when you send a picture of a chicken, your boss also replies with a chicken. And he's bugging you about coming into work. And he's like, stop feeding your dog so much bread. What are you going to do? Feed your dog bread all day? And there's a dog next to you that's eating bread. It also looks like bread. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then it goes to its... So this is what the main game is. You play a sentient hole. Okay.
What? Elaborate, please?
Yeah. So what it is, you kind of like a little diorama set in front of you. So like the opening one is there's a raccoon on a motorcycle sort of like driving around in circles, and there's like a little like there's like a white picket fence in front of it, and there's like some grass on the ground. And what you're like a little hole that can just kind of move around the environment. And what you do is like you go under objects and they'll fall through the hole, and then the hole gets bigger.
Okay.
So at first, like the raccoon doesn't notice you. It's just kind of driving. I think it's just sitting there on the bike. It's like hasn't turned on the bike. So like you kind of pick up grass and your holes like start getting bigger. And you can start picking up fence posts and your holes getting bigger. And all of a sudden the raccoon like notices you. So it gets on its motorcycle. It's like running around trying to like avoid the hole. So like you're chasing the raccoon around, and then it falls in the hole.
Is that like so? Is that like your objective is to eat the raccoon?
Kinda. I don't know. I just did, and then moved on to the next section. So I assume. And
Because it sounds like Katamari, but with like a purpose more so than just make this really big.
yeah, because I think the way I described it was it's very similar to Katamari, but it's much more laid back. Katamari, I feel, is kind of a stressful game if you're not prepared for it.
Oh yeah, because you got to get the time limit, you got to get to the certain size, and you got that music blaring in the background. That's like, oh shit, I'm running out of time.
Yeah, and I would say the game doesn't really react to your size getting bigger, except for like things are like and they kind of run away. But like the whole story is about this sentient hole that people are like freaked out about. So what happens is so I got to that level and like the raccoon falls in the hole, and then suddenly like there's a whole town of people who've been sucked up by this hole, and they're trying to figure out why they're down in this hole and who to blame it on. And they're like, I think it's Cheryl's fault. And everyone's like, I don't think it's Cheryl's fault. It's like, you know it's Cheryl's fault. And they're like, okay, it's Cheryl's fault, or whoever the character is. And then like what you play, each character's like experience getting swallowed by the hole. So
that's really cool.
yeah, so one was like a family that makes pottery. So you start out in front of their house, and like you can only pick up the grass and maybe a little fence post and stuff like that. And then the next scene, like the scene kind of like rotates a little bit, and now you're in the back of the house where there's like pottery. So like you start like there's pottery like on shelves. So as soon as you like pull out a shelf, all the pottery just starts like shattering and stuff. And you can pick up the pottery as it's like falling down. So you get like your hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally, like you can suck up the house. But like people are reacting to this, like they are not liking this. So like characters are like, oh my god, what is that? And they're like running around, and like there's like people crying and stuff and trying to like run away from the hole. And so like after you like once you go through each section, like there's characters like describing what happened and how horrible it is that this hole is like taking over the town. And that's pretty much it. And I know it sounds weird.
It sounds awesome because it sounds like it eliminates the issue I have and why I don't play a lot of Katamari, which is there's no reaction to this giant thing eating everything, and I feel like it doesn't have a purpose. But I feel like this is just taking that concept and putting a story behind it, which is awesome.
Yeah, and there's some cool stuff too. Like the hole isn't just like there's a part where you swallow a fire pit, and all of a sudden there's like smoke coming out of your hole, and then you can go underneath a hot air balloon and like blow this guy up into the sky because you overheat his hot air balloon, so like he flies away.
That's cool.
And it's really cool. And this whole thing is set to music, and the whole scene is kind of like bouncing a little bit to the music. And like I was bopping my head just like a little bit to the music. I was like, this is good music. Yeah. I didn't realize I was doing it until like I realized I was doing it. It's like, this is okay. All right.
I'm in a room with thousands of people. I look stupid.
But I was like smiling and laughing the whole time. The other two people who were playing were also smiling and laughing. Like it was just a really good time playing that game. It was just like very relaxed, very interesting, and it was weird in a way. I feel like weirdness can kind of be sloppy. Like you're saying, like there's a certain sloppiness that is inherent to like being like kind of weird. But it was just like a very slick, very well made. Just felt really good to play, and it really had that like the thing I like about Katamari is that sense of scale, and it really does feel like that because you like I said, like when you start out just in front of the house is like a little thing in front of the house, and by the end you're swallowing not only the house but like the mountains around it.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool game, really really lighthearted, really fun, and it had some like really kind of unique dialogue and stuff like that. It made me laugh, like, of, like, all the demos I played, like, that one made me laugh a lot, and I just had a really good time with it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just good to have those just games that, this is just fun.
Yeah.
Not serving a bigger purpose, I'm just enjoying myself right now.
I think the story, though, I think they're going to go some weird places with the story. Like, I think it actually, like, Katamari's story is, like, very bare bones. Like, this one is, like, pretty story intensive, like, very, like, you know, characters like they clearly have backgrounds, and they clearly have jobs, and they clearly have motivations and stuff like that, and they all look really cute.
Well, stay tuned for the depressing ending to Donut County, apparently.
I'm sure that game's gonna have I'm sure that place can go real dark if it needs to. Yeah, it's too bright and cheery to not go dark.
All right, well, that will wrap this one up for us. We are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming, subscribe to us on YouTube, leave some comments, and we will get back to you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.